I appreciate everybody who is joining me here on this Thursday evening. Let's go ahead and head on over here to WeatherBell Maps and take a look at our overall current pattern that we've got going on right now. I hope you are doing okay. The time on the left side of the screen right now might lag behind just a little bit, but overall it is right on point with your Eastern and Central time right now on screen. But good evening to Severe Storm Filmer, Misty, Drew Crouch, Let's Do It Tutoring, all of you in the chat. Thank you so much for being with me here on this Thursday evening. Make sure you can hear me correctly. Please hit that like button down below, and even if you're watching the stream after, you can still feel free to put zip codes, questions down in the comments section. But make sure that you are hitting that like button. It really helps kind of share this video out and get the algorithm to push this stream out to more people who might need it, might want to get their questions answered. But I just want to make sure that you can hear me all right, and that you are having, hopefully you're having a great evening. Got a thumbs up in the chat. I'm doing a test on my end, and I can hear it as well. So we're going to go ahead and get right into the stream. Of course, as always, we're going to start with a forecast, and then we're going to get a little deeper into your questions, answering your questions, the concerns that you have about the upcoming pattern. So as always, just go ahead and get started putting those questions in the chat if you have them. Otherwise, let's get into this. Taking a look at what we've got going on right now, we've still got some activity in the way of some convective activity, but pushing off the East Coast, and it's really well off and into the Atlantic now with our most recent storm system. Obviously, we had tornado reports from Kentucky, surrounding areas in the Ohio Valley, even Illinois, all the way on down there to Georgia. So significant impacts coming out of our most recent storm system here in the parts of the East. That is wrapping up, but we've still, on our Thursday evening here, got some lingering wind, some wraparound rainfall, and even some snowfall there into parts of New York, the upstate portions of New York, even from Buffalo, really northeast of there. We're going to be seeing snowfall through the rest of this evening. You can see as we go into our early Friday morning as I continue to play this on out here. Of course, as always, using WeatherBell Maps. Free trial to that in the description. Not only do we have this going on the East Coast, we've also got some snow that's going to impact parts of the West over the next 12 to 24 hours, and that includes some high winds in that region as well. We're going to be seeing some really strong wind gusts continuing through the day today and into tomorrow over parts of Nevada, moving through the Mountain West. But our storm system of our next concern, and where we could potentially see our next severe weather really begin to erupt, is as we head towards, say, late Saturday going into early Sunday. We're going to have a negatively tilted trough move out of the plains, and let me show you what a negatively tilted trough looks like here, pulling up the upper level winds, your 500 millibar wind speeds, and we're going to turn on the little key at the bottom so you can see exactly what in knots this looks like here. Playing this out, you can take a look and you can really see this. You can see the piece of jet stream energy that we've got moving on through the Mountain West this weekend right there. Looks like a normal trough, just like the one that just moved off the East Coast right there. You can see those warmer air moving out ahead of this next trough. But what we're going to begin to see as this next trough makes its way on out into the plains, a trough just being an area of low pressure elongated here and moving on out into the central United States, our low is going to be right here, and we're going to get this little curling mechanism out ahead of it, and that is a negatively tilted trough. If we had the right warmth, the right moisture, the correct other ingredients other than high elevation winds and well above our heads in the atmosphere, so to speak, there and 5,000 feet and above, if we had those ingredients in place, this would be a more intense looking severe weather event. However, because we just had our most recent storm system move out, you can still see the remnants of it there in the east. We're just going to get limited moisture return. The dew points aren't going to be as high as they should be for severe weather, meaning the moisture content not as high as it should be for severe weather. And as this negatively tilted trough tries to eject further north into the northern plains, you notice that northern end of it really breaking off, and we continue to just see the southern end of this trough be the stronger part. Nonetheless, though, when you combine this mid to upper level trough with what's going to be closer to the surface, we've still got this moderate westerly flow heading into early next week. That combining with some winds coming, say, from more of the southwest as you get closer to the surface, that's going to create some spin in the atmosphere like so. And we will see a little bit of that spin going on. And, in turn, that essentially will round up, causing some severe weather day by day. Now, as we take a look here, we can actually pull up your Storm Prediction Center outlook. Our first one here, our Day 3 outlook. Let's take a look at that. This is as we go towards here's that latest outlook, and this is as we go towards Saturday and Saturday night. You can see over parts of Nebraska, Kansas, and on down into eastern Oklahoma, we've got this level 1 of 5 severe weather threat. Again, this is a marginal severe weather risk, so is this something that we need to be panicking about if you live in the plains? Certainly not. This key at the bottom of the screen that you see on screen right now, we could have, a level 2, a level 3, a level 4, a level 5. We do not have those. What we do have is this level 1 risk, though. Probably will get some sort of slight risk in this. I wouldn't be surprised as we get closer if they the Storm Prediction Center at least issues a small slight risk within this area. But certainly it's looking like a shield of potential severe weather over, again, Nebraska, Kansas, going into Oklahoma Saturday and Sunday. And, the ingredients just aren't quite there the way that you want them to be if you want severe weather, right? And let's take a look at the moisture. Moisture is the number one thing that we like to look at and see, are these dew points getting up into the 60s, which is what's really the most favorable for severe weather. And yeah, you got a dry line. But, the key at the bottom shows you your dew points. And, I mean, some of these colors moving up into Nebraska in the severe risk area, that's not even indicative of, like, a 55-degree dew point. We just don't have the moisture content we need to support a major outbreak necessarily, which is a good thing, right, for most areas here needing a break. Nonetheless, we will get some severe weather kind of along this boundary right in here during that evening time frame, Saturday going into early Sunday. And we'll continue to kind of watch this dry line progress east. By the time we go in towards our Sunday, going into Monday, we'll continue to maybe watch a severe weather potential if it can linger along this boundary here during that time frame. And then as we head towards Monday, by the afternoon hours, we're probably going to see enough moisture move into these zones that we can see another meetup of this warmer moist air and this drier air and cooler air from the north. The convergence zone is obviously what's going to, with the atmospheric conditions already being ripe, help to support some severe weather. Now, if I go back on over here and we kind of play back out the future radar, because of course, remember, we were just taking a look a moment ago at the future radar, then we got caught up in looking at the jet stream severe weather potential on Sunday. Here's what's going to get going as we go into Monday, and we're not looking at the Storm Prediction Center outlook. First of all, obviously, this is your eclipse day. There are going to be impacts. It looks like it's going to be cloudy over a lot of this area with sporadic showers, cloudy over, unfortunately, for those of you who enjoy seeing the eclipse down here in Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas, of course, some of these zones as well in the path of totality, not looking great. Let's put it that way. With rain, even if you're not getting rain, looks certainly cloudy over that area. And, to be honest with you, as we go late Monday going into early Tuesday, these storms that are probably going to be in this area right here, I know they're just popping up as greens on your map, but that's just the way this, this weather model setup looks here. If you live in these areas that look like you could have storms on Monday going into Tuesday, I certainly think some of these areas could have the potential for maybe all severe weather hazards. It certainly looks like that could be setting on up with a low-end outbreak potential. And look at this. I mean, it looks like the same areas will see those impacts as we go Monday going into Tuesday. Looks like it's going to be a pretty active week over a lot of the southern and eastern United States, as, what's strong to the west will move east as at least some rain into the Carolinas by the time we go towards Tuesday. Notice our next line of severe weather, and look at how the European model sets this up. That would be a bad-looking setup as we head towards the midweek time frame down there over the south central. Then, indications from models are that this low is going to lift north, and that would pull this cold front along this boundary right here. And I know Severe Storm Filmer, who's watching me right now, always asking about Ohio and the severe weather potential up there. If we pull up the lightning flash density here from the European model, and, I know we're still 7 days out from this. It certainly looks like we could have lightning all the way up this boundary. So we'll see how that plays out. But it certainly looks like this low-pressure system could be strengthening at the right times to, unfortunately, bring severe weather to a lot more people. Look at that, dragging through the mid-Atlantic towards Friday of next week, and then that moves on off towards the east, off the Atlantic coast. Remember that we are still a very long time out from this to be really discussing this in depth. It is not really important that you look at features of these storms. It's important you look at the overall trend, though. And one overall trend that we see is that potential for early week severe weather down here over the south central United States, and that's what we're going to pull up right now. Let's go to the south central region. Let's look at those Storm Prediction Center outlooks and go right back on over to those. And you can see here on your day 4 outlook, the Storm Prediction Center, your day 5 outlook as we go Monday and into Tuesday. Storm Prediction Center is highlighting this zone here of far southeastern Oklahoma, northeast Texas, into parts of southern Arkansas, northern Louisiana for the potential of some isolated to scattered severe weather Monday going into Tuesday. And we'll also continue to watch that potential as we go into Tuesday and into Wednesday. Notice the zone barely shifts. I just changed graphics. You barely see a shift there. So just notice where severe weather is expected to be, and it certainly looks like we will have that 15% slight risk over those zones right there. So just get ready if you live in the South Central United States for probably the return of some severe weather. Now, I'm going to start answering questions. We'll continue to do forecasting. You know, this is meant to go on for at least another 30 minutes. So if you have questions, please drop them in the chat. And, of course, please hit that like button if you're just now joining me. I've got around 15 people watching right now. And, of course, it helps the algorithm and viewership if you put those comments down in the chat. Even if you don't have a question, you can still feel free to be chatting down there about whatever you think on the upcoming weather. I do see a couple of questions here, one of them from Eleva Tours by Ray Mays. So is severe weather finally awake or not quite yet? I mean, I would say severe weather season's been going for the last couple of weeks now pretty strong. Even some of the events that have turned out to be complete, busts, so to speak, they've been pretty feisty storm systems. We're getting those spring-like systems moving through. I think at this point we're definitely reaching the severe season, especially with setups like these with negatively tilted troughs trying to eject into the plains. This could just be a precursor to what we could get more of in the future with some of those moving into the central plains. So Eleva Tours, I think it certainly is a precursor and, if not the start, of what is going to be our severe weather season that lasts for at least another month or two, and even into the summer probably. Bill Hayes, what is it looking like for northern Alabama? Good evening to you, Bill Hayes. Thank you so much for joining me here. Let's play this on out and kind of take a look at your area. First of all, it is looking fine over the next few days. No precipitation in northern Alabama. If that's what you're discussing, let me know if you want me to cover temperatures, anything like that, here in just a second. But it looks like by the time we go late Sunday going into early Monday, you could see what's left of that upper level low here over the north central plains. This trailing boundary of thunderstorms, probably sub-severe as we go towards Monday there. You can see there's still some thunder on the back end of the storm, but it certainly doesn't look anything too feisty. And then as we go and play this out a little bit further here using the European model, notice by the time we go towards Monday night into Tuesday, we're probably going to get a warm front somewhere right along here. And we're going to get severe weather initiation right in here as we go towards late Monday, going into early Tuesday. That could include a few showers in Alabama. Severe potential should ramp up, I think, as we go Tuesday and into Wednesday in Alabama. Notice, look at that Wednesday night showing a potential severe weather event pushing into early Thursday here over the south. That would certainly be something to watch, Bill. So I would certainly be watching that very closely there in northern Alabama. And we can even look at the lightning flash products here on the European model. And look at this. I mean, you can see lightning really running wild through some of these zones as we head into the midweek time frame of next week. We'll see how that progresses into other parts of the eastern United States as well. But, I mean, this isn't just something we're seeing on the European model. We're seeing it on the GFS, too. Look at that. Going into Wednesday, overall messy in the east. Drier out west, kind of almost some warmer ridging out west as well, trying to get going there as well. So that's certainly what we've got going on in the upcoming pattern in northern Alabama. That is a great question there, as we've got this precipitation really looking like it's going to ramp on up over a lot of the east into next week, and that could develop a flood threat as well. In fact, let's take a look at how much precipitation the GFS is predicting, and I mean, look at some of these totals by the time you go through the end of next week, and man, I love graphics like this. The precipitation on WeatherBell maps just looks awesome. The colors are really easy to define, and you can see where that GFS model has that heaviest precipitation, and again, probably some severe weather down here in the southern zones of this. Very heavy rain, and some of those local totals progressing upwards of 4 to 6 inches of rain there. That looks like some really heavy precipitation next week, and something we're certainly going to have to really watch closely there in northern Alabama, Bill. And if we look at the European model, and really this is a little bit of the forecasting element of this too, looking at the European model, playing it out through that same time frame, I mean, look at the totals. It looks like a lot. Somewhere here, I know it sounds very vague, somewhere here east of the central corridor it's going to be really heavy. We're going to get a very heavy swath of rain, and it could impact a lot of people with not just the potential for severe weather on the southern end of that particular storm that brings this, but also the potential for flooding rains, and I think that's something that we really need to be watching closely as well. So everybody needs to keep that in mind. Get a swig of my water there. Let's continue to let's go on over. We will take a look at this with a fresher look here at Radar Omega, and let's actually kind of take a look at what the European model is showing with the next few storm systems. Now, grays, greens, those are the colors that you're looking at for precipitation on this map from the European. And notice what we've got going on. There's that thunderstorm chance into the Central Plains as we head into this upcoming weekend. So I even think the severe weather potential could exist in places like Kansas City, Missouri, Springfield, Missouri, northwestern Arkansas, into southeast Oklahoma as we go towards Saturday. So even though the Storm Prediction Center is more outlining kind of this area for severe weather, I think by the end of the day, that area might be closer to where we see a little bit more of, say, a slight risk, and we even see the expansion of a marginal go. And this would be kind of your overall risk area, slight risk maybe somewhere in here, potentially if it sets up like this. So that's something to at least look at. As long as it's rain in Ohio, I'll be okay, Simply Shan says. That's a good comment there, and let's take a look at what this is looking like in Ohio. First of all, I want to head back right on over to the maps I was just looking at here. I mean, it looks like a lot of rain there in Ohio, and I think you'll need to watch mid to late next week for the potential, probably Thursday going into Friday, if at all, for maybe some severe weather in Ohio. So I don't want you to rule it out right now. It's too early to call whether or not we're going to get severe storms. Certainly looks like there's going to be some storms worth watching. And if we get that little clipper low on up here over the Great Lakes as well that the European model is showing, look at that. That could bring some brief thunder activity as early as Tuesday going into Wednesday. But it looks like as we go probably sometime into Thursday, maybe even early Friday, we're going to get this low intensifying over parts of the Great Lakes region. And really that is a strong low pressure system. To be honest with you, that could probably cause some bigger wind gusts as well. And yeah, you can see those moving through Ohio out of that storm. And again, I'm not saying that this is what's going to happen, but you can see the European model already depicting a strengthening low pressure system, the associated wind gusts as well, picking on up 40, 45, even 50 miles per hour there into parts of Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York as we head towards the end of next week. Again, it's very early to take a look and, guarantee anything here. You can certainly see where your kind of cold front is there. You've got that wraparound northwest flow here on the back end of this storm, so it certainly looks dynamic. There would be kind of your setup there, a warm front, cold front, and it certainly looks like the system is kind of dynamic in that regard. And we've got the setup for severe weather on the southern end all the way through this. So if I live anywhere really in this corridor here, I'm on especially high alert over the next, 5 to 7 days. I really don't think severe weather's letting up right now, even in Florida, to end next week. We'll be watching some storms. And, I mean, the European model shows this scenario. Look at the GFS. I mean, it's not too far off. It's a little bit further south with the low. You'd still be getting severe weather down in the southern and eastern part of this anyway. But I'm telling you, I mean, the GFS and the European model, for this to be 7 days out, they're not too far out or too far off of each other. GFS certainly, in Ohio would be more of what you want, though, with just a little bit of rain kind of clipping and edging on by. Again, though, the GFS model showing a strengthening low, that means wind gusts over parts of the east could be stronger. And look at some of those gusts ramping right on up along that northeastern United States shoreline there. That would be intense if we got that right along some of the immediate coastal areas. Now, one other thing that I wanted to talk about here in this stream, because it's a video, that's the title of this stream as well. Again, if you're just now joining me, please hit that like button and put questions down in the chat. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Look at this. If I go on over here, we're going to go to the European ensembles. We're going to take a look at cloud cover because that's what I want to show you. What's it going to be like as we head towards the eclipse next week? And yeah, we don't want wind gusts. Let's look at the probabilities here. Oops, clicked the wrong thing. There we go. Probability of cloud cover 50% or greater, because this is what's going to completely honestly screw over your chance of seeing the eclipse if it plays out with thick clouds overhead. And let's be honest here, this is as we go towards Monday afternoon. Look at the time that's going to be showing up here on the left side of your screen right about now. This is as we head towards 2 p.m. on Monday, right as that totality is going to go from Texas all the way on up here to Maine. And that was a terrible drawing of it, but you kind of get the point, right? Kind of like that. That's what we've got going with this. And anyway, look at where it's going to be cloudy, and to be honest with you, the models are honing in on pretty much everybody in the path of totality, getting some clouds. Now, where it's pretty much guaranteed to where you're not going to be able to see this well, right here along the Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi Gulf Coast, and then on up here into parts of Montana, Wyoming, the Dakotas, and Minnesota. Now, I know up there in the upper Midwest, you're not necessarily in the path of totality, but you got to remember, you got these 90, 80, 70% zones expanding outward, of where you still get that great crescent shape. You're able to view it with the shades, and have a good time with maybe friends and family seeing the eclipse. So even if you're not in the path of totality, clouds can really just mess everything up, right, for viewing. So that would be very unfortunate to see this play out. Right now, only areas in the path of totality there, maybe into Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, a little break in the clouds according to the European ensembles, with only about a 30 to 40% chance of it being at least partly to mostly cloudy. And maybe on up there in Maine looking pretty good as well. But it's certainly a little less iffy the farther northeast you go. But right here in the path of totality in these zones, and especially in the central United States, anywhere in the central U.S., it's looking especially cloudy. And there might be a few areas in Missouri that eke out between the clouds as well. And again, there are going to be a few things that we don't 100% know until we're literally 12, 24 hours out. These averages are not perfect right now. All I can tell you is that when you get a big red blob like this on the averages, it's hard to get rid of that. So you're pretty much not seeing the eclipse if you're up here in the Dakotas, Minnesota, for whatever, percentage of totality you can get up there. Down here, closer to the Gulf Coast, probably not seeing it here either. Some of the totality zones in Oklahoma, Arkansas keep tabs, but it doesn't look great right now with already an 80 to 90% chance that it is at least partially cloudy. And again, you might get a brief break and be able to see it for a moment of time. But again, remember to wear those shades unless it is in full totality there, that 100% coverage of the moon over the sun. Make sure that you're wearing those shades all the way through. And up here into the Ohio Valley in the Northeast, again, that is where these ensembles are showing, and ensembles just being a collection of models, really showing better chances on up there of having good viewing. If we look at the GFS ensemble cloud cover, we're going to get a similar picture. Unfortunately, it shows some zones on up here in the Ohio Valley and Northeast not having a great time with viewing either. Notice, though, it shows a little break there into parts of Missouri and Illinois. In fact, it shows only about a 10 to 20% chance there of 50% cloud cover. So maybe there's going to be I think there's going to be some little breakup of the clouds based on current indications somewhere here in these middle ground zones of the totality path. But just for viewing here, if you live, let's just go back to those European ensembles. If you live here right along the California coast, I know it's not going to be much of a view, but you will at least be able to see probably the eclipse from there pretty securely. Zones maybe here along the immediate east coast having a better chance of at least, again, seeing whatever percentage you get. It's not going to be, too much higher than 50% there along the immediate southeast coast, especially right in here. It's going to be like 60, 70%, I think. It's going to be the viewing percentage. Actually, closer to 70% might be about right. But anyway, point being here, we're looking at the cloud cover percentages and the probability of seeing, what we're looking at, the probability of seeing greater than 50% cloud cover. And again, down here in the far south central and down here over the far north central, it is not looking good for viewing for whatever percent of totality you might be getting. Of course, always continue to keep putting those questions down in the chat. I am open to any questions you have about the eclipse, the upcoming weather forecast, as we go over the next week or two, whether that is in regards to severe weather, anything else, I've got you. So please put those questions down in the chat if you've got them. Let me just get a swig of water real quick. All right. But yeah, we can even take a look at member low locations here too of pressure, and look at what we've got. I mean, this might be the furthest the 18Z run goes, but look at this. Here's that low into next week, and you can see it there. Look at these European ensembles showing a low pressure system right in here. Late next week, though, drag that front along the east coast, just like I was showing you earlier there in that prediction. Really just showing impacts of a storm system going like this at some point next week, and it could include a good bit of severe weather as well. If we go to the GFS ensembles, I would almost be willing to bet, even though I haven't seen them further south, yeah, you've got the lows a little bit further south and more spread apart. But I mean, I'm looking at some of these low numbers. They're well below 1,000 in some cases. So some strengthening low pressure systems likely, or a strengthening low pressure system likely late next week. And that's all going to start with what is left of our upper level low in the Central Plains this weekend. And again, I can kind of show you that evolution here on future radar. Going back, playing this out. Notice we've got that kind of the lingering front down here sitting along the Gulf Coast. Eventually you get the evolution of storms that move towards the northeast. Eventually a low pressure kind of hooks onto that and pulls everything to the northeast, and then all of a sudden you got this big wind, storm, severe weather event, whatever you want to call it. And unfortunately, I mean, southern zones of this especially are probably going to end up in severe weather. And again, it's those tightening isobars that you see right here on the screen. It's those little black lines. That's where you've got some of the stronger winds and a pressure gradient between high and low pressure. That certainly supports some stronger storms as well. I do want to point out right now, by the way, if we go take a look at the temperatures for the night tonight and just over the next several days, taking a look at the minimum temperatures as we go towards our Friday morning, I gotta let you know, if you live in any of these pink shaded areas, some of these lighter pinks right here, like so, you are in a freeze as we go towards our Friday, April 5th in the morning. So surprisingly enough, it is cold and you're going to get a freeze in these areas. Record warm lows over here, though. Notice that little bit of warmth kind of going right there. And you want to know why that is? That first arrow I just drew right here, that is your negatively tilted trough. Boom. Just like that. So it's really interesting to see how everything evolves. It's going to be pretty warm in the afternoons, though, over the next week or two. And again, look at the severe weather. I mean, if you get severe weather down here, you got a very ripe environment. Monday, 80s. Tuesday afternoon, you've got temperatures in the 70s, it looks like, over a lot of the area that could see severe weather. Going into Wednesday, that shifts towards the east. Notice we've got plenty of 70s to go around. And look at how the warmth expands northward. Even on up here into the Great Lakes, we've got plenty of 60s in Ohio. So again, that's why I think severe weather could be supported that far north if we get the right atmospheric ingredients that far north late next week. But I definitely think we're going to get early severe weather here to start next week. Then other areas here are going to start to watch it into the midweek. Late week is going to be somewhere kind of in this zone is where we're going to watch the severe weather set up, with obviously warmer temperatures out ahead of the low, cooler temperatures behind them. And I mean, you can almost make out a little bit of a warm front already showing, kind of a cold front there, warm front here, with a low maybe moving up like that as we go towards Thursday. That's certainly the kind of setup we could be seeing around that time. Thanks to everybody who's been watching recent videos, by the way. It really helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate you. What other questions do we have? Any questions for anyone in the chat? Make sure to share the link with family and friends if you want them to join as well. I'm answering any questions right now about the weather and the upcoming eclipse pattern. We're going on for, the eclipse that's on the way, I should say. Everything in the upcoming pattern, we're discussing that, and this is going to go on for at least, another 10, 15, 20 minutes at least, and longer if there are questions. Glad you love to watch the videos, Jake's Awesome Vid said. Simply Shan, appreciate you keeping us updated. I'm very glad to keep you updated, and hopefully everyone let me know how you like the addition of the little time stamps there on the top left side. I know that they might lag maybe 20 seconds kind of behind where I am. But I figured I could put those in using OBS streaming. And, again, my stream's about 20 seconds. I'm talking to you about 20 seconds ahead of when you actually hear me. So there's a little bit of a lag on the time as well. Danny Boy says, you think southern Wisconsin will see anything severe? Yeah, that's a good question. Probably not. And just looking at these high temperatures as we head towards next week, the temperatures are going to get on up into the 60s into parts of southern Wisconsin. I don't know if we're going to get severe weather supportive temperatures. Let's go on over and take a look at the future radar for you there as well. Great question. First of all, as we go Sunday, we could have whatever's left of this upper level low sitting on over here in the north central United States. We're going to get this little push on that upper level low like this. I think that could support an isolated wind or supercell threat up here into parts of the upper Midwest. So that's something to keep in mind in some of those areas. And again, you can almost see the European model trying to pinpoint a few storms on up there. Probably nothing severe in Wisconsin. I'll keep you posted on that. By the way, thank you, Drew Crouch, for saying that you like the timestamps on up there. Glad you can see those. And of course, the model timestamps are also up there as well, so you can see what time I'm playing out for. Probably nothing too bad on up there in Wisconsin through the midweek time frame. And look at this, I think whatever low, and I've been kind of drawing this out throughout the stream, whatever low might develop, you're going to be on that northern side. Now, you're probably not going to get necessarily snow based on the current look of this in Wisconsin up there mid to late week next week, but this low pressure system also looks to shade to your south. I mean, you can see that evolution, and notice really no snow for the United States at all out of that low, unlike some of our more recent ones that have brought severe weather. So just kind of keep that in mind. I don't really think you're going to get much severe weather this week in a place like southern Wisconsin, and if it is, it will be a very low chance late Sunday going into Monday, and I really don't think this storm late week is going to hit you like that. If anything, maybe just some stronger wraparound winds, and in fact, if I pull on up the winds right here, here are your wind gusts. You can certainly see European model indicating if we get this kind of low pressure set up, maybe some 20-30 mile per hour wind gusts, nothing too extreme on up there over Wisconsin. But again, notice how East Coast areas, if this low kind of strengthens on up, if this low strengthens up just like this as we head towards late next week, like I've been hinting at, bringing that low from here on up into the Great Lakes with severe weather kind of trailing that southern end as well, that could certainly increase to just non-thunderstorm winds here over the east as well as we head towards the very end of next week. But great question there. No severe weather until May. LA Tours by Rain Mave says, and yeah, and up there in Wisconsin, probably May is going to be when your severe threats begin to especially ramp on up there. But if we, I wouldn't rule it out to get going there a little bit earlier, especially if we can get a storm system further north. And if we take a look at the European ensembles, and actually let's do this with the GFS ensembles, we don't have any long-term indications of systems that far north. In fact, we don't really have any long-term signals of anything in the pattern on that. But looking, I mean, again, look at this. This is your GFS ensemble. This is a collection of a bunch of models, okay, showing you that as we head towards Wednesday and into Thursday, I mean, look at that. Clear as day on the GFS ensembles, with the European model is showing as well. Storms probably from the Ohio Valley back down towards the southeast. Again, severe weather areas will probably more likely be closer to the Gulf Coast. We'll see if we can get it further north, depending on how far the warmth can go towards the north. And then that moves into the northeast and gets out of here by the weekend probably. And again, these darker greens are what you're looking for to focus for storms. Monday into Tuesday, that's over the south central, messing up the eclipse there, maybe even over a lot of the east, just the clouds coming off that system, messing everything up. And you can see the evolution into the late week. So it is going to take all week from this system to move from here to the far east coast. So it's going to be something that I'm certainly tracking very closely all of next week. Again, whether that includes the impacts to your solar eclipse viewing. Of course, again, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat. Whether that includes your eclipse viewing forecast on over here to the east coast with storms. It just looks active next week. And even if we take a look at the pressure here, looking at some of those member minimums of low pressure, notice again where that evolves. And this is the lowest pressure we're seeing on some models. I mean, we're talking a 980 millibar low on up there through parts of the Great Lakes being indicated by a few of our models. So that's going to be something we'll have to watch. And if you get that cold front like this, it means anybody from especially the southeast, but into the Ohio Valley, can't reiterate that enough, it needs to at least be on some kind of alert as we head into next week. Simply Shan says, I hope it stays away, please. Yeah, I mean, again, it's kind of too early for you on up there in Ohio to really know exactly what's going to specifically happen necessarily, but I certainly think some gusty winds, heavy rain will probably be likely going as we late Wednesday, especially into Thursday of next week would be the primary time frame I'm seeing right now. Again, things can change in those zones. That's certainly where it's looking the rainiest at that time. Whether that includes severe weather, not exactly sure, but it certainly looks like models are depicting a low pressure system moving on up through that area. And I mean, you can see low pressure. These are all those little low pressure squiggles of members right on up in that zone. It looks like we're going to get a low pressure system to move on up there into the northeastern United States. Sounds good. Usually the past couple years, June to August would be the worst, I think, with a lot of changes. I'll keep an eye out. Danny Boy says, yeah, always a good idea to keep an eye out on whatever storm systems come your way, because remember, even in the far north, in your area of Wisconsin, LA Tours by Rain Maze in Wisconsin been commenting. All you up there in Wisconsin, I mean, you never know when a storm could go on the stronger end. And, it's not like we didn't have the March 31st outbreak last year in 2023. I hate to bring that up. But we had, obviously severe risk going all the way along this boundary, tornadoes all the way up this, and just never something you want to see there with anything like that. And, but I mean, it just shows you can have it in March. So it definitely means you can have it in April and into May. I don't see any long-range indications out of any models that anything's going to develop up that far north. In fact, our longer-term ensembles continue to show severe weather potential, mainly being kind of confined to this east coast trajectory, moving kind of along that same trajectory our last system moved, to be honest with you. So we'll see, how this upcoming pattern evolves. But low pressures certainly look to be moving like this in the upcoming pattern for quite a little while. Got 31 people watching now. Please feel free to drop questions about your local area. If you put a zip code in the chat, that helps me out even more, so I can hone in on your very specific location, but just a state, a region of a state, a region itself, whatever. You can always put that down in the chat, and I will get to your questions about the upcoming weather. That can include anything from the eclipse to severe weather potential. If you see my thumbnail, obviously it looks like a lot of areas might be in for severe weather next week, and that wasn't really meant to be an exaggeration. It was meant more to show that we've got a lot of uncertainty, lots of areas that could be covered with severe weather. That's why the yellows kind of extend over a pretty broad region of the U.S. And again, that all starts Saturday afternoon, right? With some of these storms in here that could briefly spin up a tornado threat, but especially a wind and hail threat looking likely according to the Storm Prediction Center. With the kind of environment that we've got with the colder air in place, I know the dew points aren't that favorable for severe weather, but in the Central Plains, Saturday going into early Sunday, I bet you we'll probably see a few 1.5, maybe 2-inch hailstones in some of these storms if it continues to trend like this. And to be honest with you, that could be what ends up actually triggering a level 2 of 5 slight risk from the SPC for that kind of storm moving through some of those zones. So that'll be something we watch. By the way, it's going to be snowing pretty hard on up here into the mountainous regions of the west. And again, this storm is actually bringing a lot of wind into the plains, and I forgot to mention that earlier, so I'm glad I'm going to do that now while I wait on a new question here. I just answered a few a moment ago. But while we wait on the next one, again, look at this as we go towards our Friday afternoon. Here's wind gusts. We've got a lot of them coming off the Rockies and out into the plains in that 40-mile-per-hour range. We've at least got some gusts on over here over the Four Corners, though, and on up there into Wyoming. Some of those higher elevations there in northeast Arizona, eastern Utah going into southwestern Wyoming, parts of western Colorado and western New Mexico, certainly looking like gusts 40 to 50, maybe even 60 miles per hour. Weather.gov will give you those alerts and issue them for wind advisories and high wind warnings depending on your location. Look at this as we go towards Saturday in the afternoon. We're going to see those gusts expand over a lot of the plains, wind advisory trajectory in any of the green colors you're seeing here. So probably lots of wind advisories all over this area of the plains. Saturday afternoons, some parts of the Rockies there west of Denver, into parts of northern New Mexico getting on up into the 50 to 60 mile per hour range, and some of those wind gusts once again here. And you can see that continues as we go towards Sunday in some of the mountainous regions. Some of that will push into Nebraska, Kansas as well. And as we continue to play things out, I mean, it's looking like as we go through next week, that low disintegrates. But remember, the new low is going to form probably somewhere here, go towards the northeast throughout next week, and that could bring renewed wind gusts. Now, Ann Stedman says, how is Boonville, North Carolina looking like on Monday for the eclipse? Zip code is 13309. Great question for you there, Ann. And let me just type you up here on my own end. I don't like just showing everybody your exact zip code here, but I'm definitely going to pull it up on my end, and we're going to give you that question. Great question from Ann. If anybody else has questions, or if anybody who's already asked one has another one, feel free to put those in the chat. And, of course, like the stream, subscribe to the channel, all that stuff. Obviously, looking like you're great in terms of your trajectory there in Boonville, being in that path of this eclipse. And let's go on over here. We can take a look at the European ensembles. We were looking at these just a little bit ago. Probabilities of moisture here, that's what I want to look at. Here's your chances in that area. And, in fact, let's zoom on in on the northeast since we're on you. Again, anybody with new questions, feel free to put them in the chat. But here we go towards Monday afternoon. What this is showing you is your percent chance of seeing 50% cloud cover or greater. So this is your chance of seeing partly to mostly cloudy skies at a time here Monday afternoon. And this is a collection of models and their average showing that in parts of New York here, oops, there we go. This is what we're looking at. Looking like about a 50-50 shot at partly cloudy skies. So that means the models are a little unsure as to how this is going to lean. You might end up closer to, say, West Virginia, where it's showing a higher probability of it being cloudier. You might end up closer to Maine, to what it's showing in Maine, with it being less cloudy. So honestly, I hate to leave you hanging on the question, but the models are a little uncertain. But the good news is that in terms of the probability of it being 90% or more cloud cover, if that will pull on up, those chances are a little lower, but still closer to 30%. So at this point, I think in a place like Boonville, New York, I think I would certainly be kind of keeping a close eye on this forecast. If we look at the GFS ensembles, which is a different collection of models here being averaged out, they are showing these clouds encroaching from the west. If you get especially further to the western parts of New York, that's where it's looking like it could even be a little cloudier according to this particular set of models. So again, it's a little early to tell. It's still looking like a 50-50 shot that you have good viewing right now. But unfortunately, your chances of getting like greater than 10% cloud cover are pretty high. So there's probably going to be at least a few clouds on the sky, and especially probably some wispier clouds, if I had to guess, as we go towards Monday afternoon there, as there's going to be a lot of storm systems way to your south and west and into the plains as well, and those will just be kind of ejecting some of those higher cirrus clouds in that direction and trajectory there. So hopefully that answers your question, Anne. I'm hoping to do another video or maybe a stream like this again tomorrow. I mean, I can answer more questions on the eclipse as well in that. But yeah, again, to anybody just now joining me, here's a look at the ensembles as we head towards Monday afternoon. And there's a very high chance that a lot of the U.S. has at least 10% clouds. But look at this, and we might get a little bit of a break in some of the path of totality. So we'll see where that fills in. We're going to be honing in on that over the next few days, where exactly the eclipse is going to be best viewed. But of course, again, I think a lot of people, as we head closer to this eclipse, are going to get drawn to that. There's going to be a lot of channels that are going to be, just discussing this eclipse, where it's going to be cloudy, where it's not, and I think that's important. But I also think it's important to remember that these clouds down here, Monday afternoon down here over the south central U.S., that is severe weather getting going, some storms down there. Obviously, that could continue into Tuesday over this region, progress, it's considerably questionable where that's going to be in the east, but sometime Wednesday into Thursday, looking like severe weather is going to be possible. Further east, could it be another little kind of outbreak like we just saw out of our most recent event? Not out of the question. So I'm going to be definitely tackling not only the eclipse forecast, but the severe weather forecast as we head into next week, because I think that's really important that we spread that severe weather awareness and not just worry about, who's going to be able to see that eclipse and who is not. Justin says, I have a hotel in Austin, Texas for the eclipse. Do I go north or south for less clouds from there? So that is a great question there in Austin, Texas. Let me pull. Let's go on. I'm going to zoom in on the south central United States here. And again, this is just a collection of models. Again, don't trust this like you would any sort of like scientific fact. That's not what this is here. But in a place like Austin, down here, in South Central Texas, it is unfortunately looking like no matter which direction you head, if you go north or south, it's certainly looking cloudy on Monday afternoon, according to the GFS ensembles. If we look at the European ensembles, they're showing a similar deal. Probably the better bet for clouds, based on current projections, Justin, would be if you head further to the north, but that might include going as far north as on up here into parts of Missouri, and again, that's not even really the path of totality there. I'm in northwest Missouri. Unfortunately, a lot of these zones in the path of totality here are just going to be dealing with a lot of clouds. This is your percent chance of greater than 50% cloud cover. So this is again, I can't stress this enough as I show these graphics. The percentages at the bottom are not your cloud cover percentages. They're the chance that it's at least partly cloudy to mostly cloudy. And you can see down at the bottom that we're looking at least a 80 to 90% chance in a place like Austin Monday afternoon during the eclipse that it is partly cloudy. Here's your chance that it is 100% clouds in the sky, and that is already at 60% over that area. The chance of 90% clouds, so basically it being pretty much overcast Monday afternoon in Austin, is about 70%. So if I'm in Austin, unfortunately, the hotel in Austin is sadly just the way this weather pattern is setting up. I hate to break bad news to you, but with a potential for severe weather over the region and into parts of the Arklatex and back on towards Austin as well as we head towards Monday afternoon and into Tuesday, I really don't think eclipse viewing is going to be, honestly, very prime and very good, to say the least, in North Texas, in Central Texas either. I'll keep you posted. Again, these are ensembles. They're, models that can change. A collection of models that are averaging out. They can certainly change. It just doesn't look like the far south central and especially Gulf Coast regions in the United States. And those states that touch the Gulf Coast are going to be in prime viewing regions for this upcoming eclipse. And just not because the path of totality isn't coming through, just because the clouds are going to be coming through. And it's just looking more and more likely with every day we get closer. Good evening, Project Gladiator Weather Forecast. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you're doing great. And, yeah, Justin, I hate to break the bad news to you. I'm glad you find it all good. I really don't think things are going to look too much better there in that area as we get closer to this, just because of how cloudy it is already looking for some of those zones. I'm looking forward, Project Gladiator, to your storm chase if you post the video of that, because I know you had made that community post. Yeah, everybody go check him out as well. If you enjoy my channel, and you want more in-depth weather updates, certainly go check out Project Gladiator Weather Forecasts. He is in my chat right now if you want to see what his channel looks like. I don't think any other channel has the name Project Gladiator Weather Forecast, though, so it would be pretty easy to type him in and search him up on YouTube as well. Yeah, I hate to be the bearer of bad news with this eclipse. Looking cloudy for a lot of people. And to be honest with you, it stinks too, because this is just going to be the last one for quite a while. Any other questions in the chat? I'm good to go for a little while longer if anybody has any additional questions they want to put on down there. Upcoming weather pattern, again, severe weather possible. Let's hone in on those zones where severe weather is possible over the next several days while we kind of wait on maybe a new question. And I'm doing this just so new people who are just now joining can also see this as well. This is your severe weather outlook for the chance of severe weather percentage as we head towards Saturday. And then as we go into early Sunday, this is Saturday, late day going into early Sunday morning. These areas from Nebraska into eastern Kansas, parts of Oklahoma, looking like a 5% chance of severe weather within 25 miles of any given point. By the way, hit that like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Or if you're just watching the stream, you can always hit that like button. Could get a slight risk right in here, and we'll see how that plays out, but it certainly looks like a maybe especially hail-driven threat could get going there, especially with the colder air in the atmosphere Saturday, late day, and into the evening. Predictability, Storm Prediction Center saying, is too low as we go Sunday into Monday. I would argue severe weather could be possible in some of these areas, but I agree that it's too uncertain where that might exactly be. Then as we go Monday and look at Tuesday's outlook, they're basically the exact same thing. It's a carbon copy between the 2 days down here, and again pretty much just north of Austin. In fact, Justin Brown, if you're still here, it's looking like severe weather is going to be possible. They'll probably expand these risk areas as we get closer. So yeah, severe weather, tornadoes, large hail, or all. Yeah, severe weather, Justin Brown, that includes wind, hail, tornadoes. Those are all elements of severe weather. When I use the word severe weather, that's a great question, actually. Severe weather can be used for any of those three things. A tornado, gusty winds in a storm, and this is all storm related. That's what severe weather normally is. Severe storms can include the wind, the hail, tornadoes. And again, if I say severe storms, that doesn't mean you're getting all of those hazards, but certainly at least one of wind, hail, or tornadoes is showing up when I mention severe weather, if that makes sense. It looks like an all-hazards threat could certainly get going into early next week if the Storm Prediction Center is already outlining these areas. But I can tell you, it's April. It's in the South Central United States. We're getting a severe threat Monday into Tuesday. We're probably going to at least have some hatched areas for hail, especially back on into the western part of these zones as that cooler air pushes on out of the Rockies like so. You've got a dry line there, and then you get the hail to develop. And in fact, if we take a look at the European model dew points as we head into next week, dew points just show us that moisture content, and they help us kind of pick out where we've got, again, moisture areas and drier areas. And dew points in the 60s are what's really supportive of severe weather. Here we go, Monday. Look at this. Notice we've kind of got that cold front looking like it's going to be draped right along here, and that's what's left of our most recent upper level low in the plains, and new lows eventually going to form along this. I mean, those are dew points ripe in the 60s to near 70 there. We'll probably get some really large hail over parts of Texas and maybe even into Louisiana, along with maybe additional storm hazards Monday afternoon. As we go into Tuesday, we really begin to see a dry line push east as we go Tuesday and into Wednesday. And again, this is what I'm kind of interested in. Look at how we go late Thursday and into Friday. This is what I was talking about earlier in the stream with the evolution of the storm. I mean, you've got those dew points in the 60s going all the way on up there into parts of Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York. So those areas could potentially fill in with a severe weather threat if we get, the low to trek as far north as the Euro model is showing. That's why I want everybody up there to be on higher alert. Thursday going into Friday. And again, this is what the European model is showing at that time. And again, this looks pretty darn similar to our most recent storm system that moved through. And again, that did produce some tornadoes. Obviously not necessarily a huge tornado outbreak, but definitely reaching some of those classifications for a severe weather event. Let's put it that way. Simply Shan says she'd like the rain and wind. Yeah, I mean, that's certainly looking like almost a guarantee late week, the rain aspect especially there. If we get this scenario, again, you could maybe get some severe weather. But yeah, rain and wind beginning to trend upward in chances for Thursday and into Friday in Ohio late next week. Potential for severe weather still, kind of iffy, trying to figure that out. It looks like severe weather will definitely run Monday, Tuesday in East Texas, the Arklatex, through a lot of the Gulf Coast regions. Look at that lightning that the European model is showing late Wednesday going into Thursday. That is a lot of lightning there over the South Central United States. Take care, Project Gladiator. Thanks for joining me. Samuel Wilkinson Jr. says hello. Hello to you. But, man, that's a lot of lightning. And ignore the key at the bottom. That's not really important here as we look at the lightning flash density. It's just going to pull up the keys, though. Again, if you're new to that channel, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button for more update videos. I do some live streams like this as well. Post videos once every 2 or 3 days with brand new updates, information, edited all together for you. And of course, if you have any additional questions right now, put those in the chat. Just reached the highest viewership of the evening. I appreciate everybody getting on here, about 40 of you now. Tuning in. Bad severe weather in West Vicksburg, Mississippi. Yeah, let's take a look at your area there. Great question. I always appreciate good questions and people being weather alert. If we take a look here, let's see West Vicksburg there in parts of Mississippi. Got Vicksburg pulled up on my own end. Just want to make sure I've got the exact location down. Yeah, just west of Jackson, Mississippi. And I mean, this is your lightning as we head Wednesday and into Thursday. I know the severe weather threats are going to be concentrated closer to these areas Monday through late Tuesday and even into early Wednesday. In your area, though, severe weather threats will be potentially low those days, but really look to ramp up as we go towards late Wednesday into parts of western Mississippi, parts of Louisiana, southern parts of Arkansas as well. So just keep that in mind there if you live in far western parts of Mississippi. That is something to keep in mind. It definitely looks like you could get some severe weather in some of those areas. You see that on the European model. I mean, look at that. Some of those dark greens definitely indicating storms ramping up through some of those areas. If I go back on over here and look at a different model, I mean, the GFS, look at that. Late Wednesday going to Thursday certainly looks like severe weather. Could this include multiple severe weather hazards? Certainly so. So this could include wind, hail, tornadoes. It's a little early to tell what exactly all the hazards will be, but it looks like you could get a little bit of each. Just Hoops TV says, reminder to like the stream. What's up? Thanks so much for joining me. Glad to have your viewership sometimes on the streams as well. But I mean, look at this. In terms of storm energy, it looks like late Wednesday we're going to get some, especially right along the Gulf Coast here, and that does include at least your area of western Vicksburg. Jacoby says Monroe, Louisiana. Let's take a look at Louisiana's severe weather threat. Looks like especially the southern parts of the state, but really all of Louisiana getting into the potential for severe weather. And this is going to especially include a few different days here, and let me show that to you. It looks like late Monday, and then as we go into early Tuesday, you'll have the potential for some storms there. So Monday night, maybe some storms in parts of Louisiana. Really, I want you to be weather alert Tuesday all the way through early Thursday, because it looks like we're going to kind of continually see a warm front sitting here and trying to kind of lift on off towards the north. We've got really abundant moisture in this area. And yeah, the tornado percentage, Samuel Wilkinson Jr., I have no idea what the tornado chance percentage is going to be this far out. I mean, it's too early to call, but it certainly looks like it will be more elevated into eastern Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi. Those are some of the higher chance zones for tornadic potential as we head into next week as of now. But yeah, back to Monroe, Louisiana. Again, you can see it. I really think Wednesday is going to be the main day in Louisiana and Mississippi based on current trends. But before that, Monday and Tuesday, the threat in Texas, Oklahoma, and far western Louisiana could certainly impact other areas of Louisiana and Mississippi as well. So it's not, it's definitely not, this isn't something where you should just not be paying attention to the forecast. Have a way to receive alerts and keep tuning back in, whether you enjoy my content or other weather streamers. It doesn't matter. Weather video makers, whatever content creator you watch on YouTube, whatever app you use for weather forecasting, make sure you're kind of keeping a close watch on this as we head into next week. And yeah, Jacoby, the flood threat, in terms of precipitation, here's what the GFS model is showing, and it's going to kind of jump out at you with a lot of rain. Louisiana could be one of those focal point areas where we get a lot of rain falling. I mean, taking a look at the European model as well, it's going to show a lot of rain through some of Louisiana. Yeah, I think Louisiana could be in a big flood threat. Some of these totals from both the European and the GFS model showing 6 to 10 inches of rain at the higher end. So I definitely think we could get at least a low to moderate in flood threat into some areas here of East Texas, into Louisiana, into Mississippi, out of that storm and into the midweek part of next week especially. And again, from there, notice where these models are showing that rain going on up here into the Great Lakes as a likely severe weather threat might be trying to go like this. So we'll see how that moves. But yeah, I'm from South Carolina, Samuel Wilkinson. Greetings from over here to you in Mississippi. Certainly got a little bit more time for a few more questions if you've got them, so please make sure you're dropping those in the chat if you've got additional questions. I'll be on for at least a few more minutes. Appreciate everybody who is commenting, liking, subscribing, all that. as always. Yeah, glad to help you, Samuel Wilkinson. Thanks so much for that. Great question. You've had great questions you've had so far in this stream. But I mean, I just don't like the look of the European model at this point for next week, developing on up here into parts of the South Central United States. Leo the Weather Nerd says, hello, good evening. Good late Thursday evening. When the air quality will start to get better. Air quality. I don't even know exactly where the air quality alerts are right now. I know that we do have some, though. In fact, let me pull up the... That is a good question, though. There are some air quality concerns in areas across the country. Do we have air quality alerts right now? Let's see. The only air quality alerts right now looks like apparently the National Weather Service, unless I'm just not reading this correctly, does not want to tell me where we have, and that's a point I was looking at a minute ago, for severe weather that's on your screen right now. Oh, the stream isn't quite wrapping up, Leo the Weather Nerd, but it will be here in just a minute. I've still got 42 viewers on, though. I don't want to leave everybody hanging if they've got more questions. But yeah, air quality alerts will look like, based on what I'm looking at on my end at least here. I can pull it up and show you. There we go. And it's kind of a bad picture just because, I mean, it looks like Texas maybe? That's where we've got some of those air quality alerts. It's kind of hard to see. Yeah, Houston has some air quality alerts, but other than that, across the southeast, there's not air quality alerts. Across the west, there's not many. Looks like a few in some of the bigger cities of the west. Elsewhere, not really many air quality alerts. Any other additional questions from anybody who's on the stream? I really appreciate everybody joining me this evening. Glad I've been able to answer some questions. Hopefully straighten some things out. Drop those questions in the chat. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. As always, just want to make sure I get that message out there before we wrap up here in just a few minutes. But again, if there's a couple other questions, I will certainly get to those before I close this out. Thanks so much, Samuel Wilkinson. I appreciate that. Glad you find the content good here on the channel. Just kind of tinker. Yeah, there's that trough next week, kind of digging down. The jet stream pattern certainly looks favorable for severe weather in the next week as well, with at least a broad, at least Monday and Tuesday, we're going to have a little wind energy over parts of the South Central, and then notice once you get that low, I mean, look at that, late Wednesday going into early Thursday. That's what we're looking at on screen right now. That would be what would help really support severe weather in parts of the South Central. Where do I think tornadoes will be above average this year? Thank you, Drew Crouch, for saying great job. Thank you for the heart. Simply Shan, I appreciate it. Everybody who is showing support to the channel means a bunch to me. But Danny Boy, where do I think tornadoes will be above average this year? I did a tornado forecast, and I can hopefully copy the link and put it for you here in the description. I'll put that in the description or in the comments section. Let me copy that link on my end. Paste the link in the comments here. Paste. Hopefully you can click that link and it'll take you on over to that tornado forecast. That should be my spring tornado forecast I just linked for you there. When will my next live stream start? I'm not sure, but if I do have another live stream tomorrow or in the very near future, it'll probably be around this time on our Friday evening. So around 8:30 to 10, somewhere in that range. Like it'll start around 8:30, run closer to 10. If I do, when my live streams occur. Because I try to kind of set times where people are settled in for the evening, and I can get some viewers kind of chilling out in the evening. But yeah, glad to send you that, Danny Boy. Going on a potential trip with some of my friends from different parts of the country. LA Tours by Rain Mave says, cool, enjoy that, if that does end up happening with you. Alright, that's going to be pretty much the conclusion of this stream. If you're just now tuning in and you want to put a comment down after the stream and put it in the chat, a zip code, a question, whatever, feel free to do that. You're welcome, Samuel Wilkinson. Everyone have a great evening. Have a blessed evening at that. Appreciate all of you, and everybody have a good one. Have I said that enough times? I think I have. Bye, everyone. It's finally Friday tomorrow, right?